Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vulgar Display podcast. I am the very, very limited host, as I just said off camera, for Vulgar Display podcast where we do some metal bands. So I'm your host today, Dustin Dubuque. Hopefully everybody out there is doing wonderful. And before we get to our guests, I will shameless plug myself. As many of you out there know, Vulgar Display podcast is a sponsor to all things Zymergy Brewing metal related. And we have our big show. So if you're in the Northwest Wisconsin, Minneapolis, St. Paul area, August 12th. That's Murder Fest 3, which we have 10 bands headlined by Narcotic Wasteland. We'll have fire spinners, fire breathers, food, specialty beers. We're trying to make it as fun and over the top as possible at this Metal Fest. That's the plan as we move forward into doing all this. So again, go to Zymergy Brewing on Facebook and like them on Facebook for all things Murder Fest. That's my short plug for myself. I am here with Trey from Creeping Death, which is super cool. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I think we were talking off mic. You said you're doing well. Trey is outside currently enjoying his apparently way too nice Texas weather.
Yeah, the patio is just like super chill right now. I'm enjoying it while I still can before it goes to like 105, like noon.
Yeah, like I said, I as you just learned, I do some shows up in Northwest Wisconsin, and we had that death metal band Reviled up last year, and we had them up in like late July. And for some odd reason in Wisconsin, late July is also usually about 100 degrees and horrible outside. And it was for some odd reason like 70. And that's all they could say was how they, like 3 days prior, were in Texas and it was like 113 degrees and they were rated and they were like, oh no. And then they came up to us. They spent the whole day outside. I'm pretty sure they were in the venue to play, and that was it. Other than that, they just hung out outside because it was the weather just lucked out to not be 100 and some degrees in end of July.
Absolutely, I don't blame them, especially on tour. Like, I'm sure their Vans AC probably sucked too. Like,
of course. So speaking of that, didn't you guys just finish up a tour here with Carcass, didn't you, just recently?
yeah, like maybe about a month ago, we finished up the tour with Carcass, Municipal Waste, and Sacred Reich. It was absolutely fucking awesome. Oh, can I swear on this?
Of course, please.
Okay, yeah. It was fucking dope. Like, I mean, all of those cats are awesome. I mean, we've done a tour with Carcass like last year, and we hit it off so well. They were like, we got to run it back. So we did. All of the crew and everyone was wonderful. They treated us like, royalty the whole time, even though we were like the openers. And people showed up. Like, we played early every night, but like, when we played, there was like a packed room every night. So shout out to all the people who came early and whatnot. It was cool. It was a really fun tour. Like, had a great time.
But you guys have been on a couple of really, really sweet tours over the past couple of years. Because you were on one with Exhumed last year, weren't you?
Yeah, that was the one we came back like after the first one after kind of the touring shutdown. That was with Exhumed, Enforced, and Bewitcher. And yeah, that was another one that was like, all of the shows were crazy and packed and everyone was all rowdy and it was dope.
Yeah, I was going to say, because on that, I think you guys had a side date. You were at Full Terror Assault last year, right?
Yeah, that was on our headliner.
Okay, that was that then?
Yeah, that was our headliner with 200 Stab Wounds, and we had a bunch of other bands with us. Spirit World was on it. Vomit Forth was on it for some days. A lot of other bands. This is the Apocalypse, and Tribal Cage was on the whole thing. So yeah, a lot of sick bands on that one, and we stopped off at FTA, and yeah, it was cool. It was like the gathering of the Juggalos, but for like metalhead.
It is. Yeah, I go to Full Terror Assault every year, so I remember seeing you guys there. Yeah, Spirit World was there for too. I remember that was their part of it. If I ever plug it on this show, that's what I always do, because it is by far the most fun that I ever have at a metal venue in this.
Oh yeah, you just camp out and then you just party and fucking get drunk and stoned and fucking hang out with a bunch of other weirdos. It's dope.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's what I always say. It's amazing that you put all these metalheads into an area and the amount of shenanigans that happens, and yet nothing like actually happens. Like
yeah, nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like 8 years in, and all I'm waiting for is like, I'm like, how is all this stuff going on?
Somebody falls into the lake. Yeah, like I don't know how anyone just everyone just vibes. It's cool.
It is pretty cool. Like I said earlier, we'll probably get into like some of the beginning stuff. So like you guys have been touring a lot and really hitting it. It seems like, and you guys started in 2015, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Is it crazy to see how fast you guys have kind of blowing up? Because I see Creeping Death everywhere. Like overall, your popularity is quite high for like you're in that, like you said, you're in that group of like 200 Stab Wounds, Frozen Soul, Creeping Death, all these like death metal bands that are just crazy popular right now. It's like this
All
wave.
the homies. Yeah, it's pretty
It
cool.
is funny, like because that's what I said. Like I was just at Milwaukee Metal Fest, and like Sanguisugabog was on and Frozen Soul, and me and my and the amount of conversations people had there about like this group of metal bands in the last like 5 to 6 years that have just like
Undeath too.
Undeath, yeah, they're another one. Like, and you guys, and like, there's a few others randomly in there. So, what do you make of that whole like this whole little contingent of death metal bands that are getting quite popular? And one thing I have to give it to, the older crowd likes it too. I'm sure you know that in metal, it's really hard to get the old metal heads to not listen to suicidal tendencies and and stuff all the time. You know how it works. But it seems like even this grouping of like these bands is being totally taken in by kind of like everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty dope. I think one, it's just like everyone for the most part is like all homies. Like we've toured with almost every single one of those bands you just named at some point when we were all, coming up at the same time. So, we've all just like, been there and sort of grinded all at the same time. And, everyone's like willing to help each other out. And it's like, it's really cool. And yeah, and I think, this new wave is, I feel like, as much as a lot of people is like, oh, like they're just rehashing a bunch of old stuff. I just think that everyone, like for this new wave, is just looking at it from a different lens than maybe someone who has been, in it for whatever, or have only listened to this kind of like music for forever, Like, yeah, as a kid, I did like thrash metal a lot, but, eventually I strayed off into like, more hardcore, and then back to death metal, and then to death metal, and then all this like, and then you just like, I also like a whole bunch of other stuff like, hip hop and funk and soul and all different genres. Like some kids, it might be like alternative rock or country music or something like that. But I just think that everyone just kind of looks at it through like sort of a different lens, and it kind of comes out in everyone's different little interpretation. And, I think everyone kind of working together, it's like a rising tide raises all ships. It's like sort of I think, especially in Texas, it's like all we try to put on for, the homies bands and whatnot, because we recognize that like, oh, if, eyes on like the genre at all is probably a good thing for everyone. So I think now everyone else, country ride is sort of like, at least in this like sort of wave, has kind of adopted that same sort of like ethos. It's just like, all right, like what's good for like, one person is like good for the whole, because everyone is like, like you can see it's like you go on stage and so, or in an interview and somebody's wearing one of their shirts or something like that, even just like little things like that, it's just like it's like visible, and it's like sort of, it's like obvious, you know what I mean? So it's like it's pretty cool. I kind of like that energy.
That's the thing that's cool about it is like again, like now that I'm in it a little more, whenever I like bring up like honestly like listening to metal to like other metalheads right now, it always seems like a band that's in this quote unquote group, whoever these bands are, is always one of the bands people mention now. The amount of people that like will use like Creeping Death, 200 Stab Wounds, or like bands we've just already said as like their catalyst of like why we're listening right now. That's like, I don't know. I've been a death metal guy since I can remember, and I don't really, I'm only 35, so that only goes so far. But in the last 20 years of listening, I don't remember this being like I don't remember there being such a death metal wave. Like I remember the deathcore wave and like some of the other like the folk stuff, but like to have this resurgence is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. I always tell people it's like everything's always cyclical. It's just like eventually it's like, it's always gonna come back around at some point, and then you can get a fresh new spin on like that thing that you probably liked before. So yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah. So what's it like? You like I said, 2015 in Texas, and then kind of, I mean, again, before the pandemic, you guys really only had like what 5 quote unquote years to get going. What's it like starting down there? Why, like, what's the scene down there like? And, kind of how do you come from Texas and get out and about so much?
Yeah. So 2015, I was still in college. We were basically all still living in this college town in Denton, Texas. University of North Texas is there, and it's like a musical school. So a lot of kids like play music that don't even like aren't even involved in the school. So it's just always sort of a collegey music hub for the North Texas area. So um, yeah, that's kind of like where we sort of started. Like we also came from the hardcore scene in Dallas. Like we'd all been going to hardcore shows for years prior to that. Most of us didn't really even go to like death metal shows until we started like sort of listening to like death metal, and then we wanted to start a death metal band because it was just like kind of like newer and fresher to us because we had just been playing in hardcore bands for like the past couple of years. So it was just kind of born out of that, just like, hey, let's like do something different. And being from Texas, even the hardcore scene, it's like more metallic than most other in the country. It's probably everywhere else in the country, honestly, because Texas obviously loves metal. So even the hardcore bands have like a metallic edge. So there's always like been sort of a heavier, the more metallic band in our scene in North Texas. And at the time, like there wasn't. So we also felt like, oh, we can occupy like this space here because there's not really anyone right now doing that up here. So that was just kind of our idea at first. We literally did not plan to play outside of the state of Texas. Like we just thought, because I was like, I'm probably going to finish college within the next 2 or 3 years. Like I'm probably not going to be able to tour full time. So we were just like, yeah, let's just have fun and just like jam and play some big shows. Because like the thing about Texas is like nobody really gives a shit like what's going on like outside within our like as far as music scene goes, because everything is just so popping here. It's just like we'd rather just pay attention. And also it's 24 hours basically of a drive to each coast where kind of where the population centers are.
Right.
So it's just better. You can, you know, it can be more lucrative to you to just play your state, like, because what, five of the biggest cities in the country are all in Texas. It's like you got Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, and even El Paso, which like is hit or miss sometimes, but it's still like a pretty large population center. So, you can just do that, and your band will be loved and well liked in the state. So that's kind of what we were going for at first. We just kind of wanted to do that, and eventually we got more offers to play outside of the state. It's like we were kind of surprised anyone really was listening to it at all, because the bands we were in previously before that, for the most part, people really didn't care. It was just like, sort of local hardcore band shit. So it was just like, oh, this is kind of boring. So we just, after that, it just kind of grew and grew until, we did our first tour outside of Texas in like 2017. And it was in Eric's RAV4 with like with a U-Haul on it. And then,
Sounds right.
yeah, and that was just like, it was barely a tour. We basically like went to the Midwest and like back basically to
Sure.
Texas, and that's basically every Texas band's first like sort of tour is like you do a couple Midwest dates and come back. And then the next one we did was 2018, and that was like January, and it was a West Coast tour with a hardcore band. And then we did another East Coast run with this metal band, Breaking Wheel, and believe it or not, Fuming Mouth. Fuming Mouth was like very early in their career too. So we all did this tour together, and we did a few dates, about 2 weeks, like Midwest, East Coast, Southeast, and then back. And that was the tour we actually got the email that, E1, they were called E1 at the time, but like MNRK or whatever, they were interested in like, signing us and putting out our music. So we didn't really like tour a ton at first. We were basically only playing in Texas, and then for about 2 years we were doing like things between breaks, and then they were like, hey, do you guys want to like get signed? And I had just finished college, like I literally just got my degree, and I was just like, fuck it, I could, we'll see what happens, I can always get a job later. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like how we just continue to tour. So we didn't really start touring for real until like 2018. It was only in winter breaks and summer breaks before that.
So I got a kind of probably a hard question for you. So again, 3 years you're going from like maybe only playing in the state ever to touring, and then you're signed, and then you have an album, and then Yeah, COVID kills everything, and then now you're touring a lot, and you know, what about Creeping Death is the reason you think that people have like, because you know the metal genre, there's so many bands everywhere all the time, and I'm sure you've been to shows where you go, you see a band and you go, how are these guys not signed? Like, how are they not touring national acts? And yet they'll play the same four spots in Texas all the time. There's bands that I've watched in Wisconsin and Minnesota that I am shocked by. I'm like, this band feels like it would hit, but it's metal. There's so many bands. There's so many things. Like, so when a band does hit, like Creeping Death has, what do you think is the factor there that pushes you guys like above into becoming a well-known
Uh,
band now?
Everyone's route is like different. I just think with like everything, all things considered, with the fucking, the stupid name that we chose, and we just kind of had to like kind of like build it ourselves, like grind to like actually like play to people, as many people as we can, to kind of like get our name out there. Because I feel like, our music is sort of best understood if you like see it live, and then, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, it's like I get it a lot more now. It's like we always kind of fancy ourselves as more like a live band, I guess. Like I think music is meant to be watched like live and enjoyed like live and in person with other people. So, that's just kind of like our vibe, and I think that it doesn't translate as much if you just listen to it, um, as opposed to like going out and seeing it. So that helped, and honestly, like also a little bit of luck goes here and there. Like you can't just be like, oh, like uh, you know, oh, it was just all us like along the way. But yeah, no, it's like, sometimes you got homies helping you out, someone reposting, like all it takes is like somebody reposting something and then someone, the right person seeing it. So like, I always kind of think about that when I'm sharing my friends' stuff and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that also helps too. We were blessed to have a good support system with our, not just our families, but friends and like the, friends in the music scene and stuff like that. So, that always helps too. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So like you said, you got signed, and your first full length was in 2019. That was Wretched Illusions, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it like having that album come out and just kind of going off that? Because again, these are pretty quick, relatively large milestones for a younger band.
Yeah. It was definitely very strange at first, especially just coming from pretty much only playing hardcore shows. Uh, Doing like, you know, metal media interviews and stuff like that. And, we were also blessed enough to do our first really, really big tour. And that was the High on Fire Power Trip Devil Master tour. And that was that fall, basically right after that album had come out. And that helped us out a lot too, doing that tour. But yeah, that was like just that whole fall, that whole instance of doing that. It was just very, very like alien feeling because you're going from playing, clubs and basement floors and DIY spots to, 1,000, 1,500 cap venues that are full every single night. And you're dealing with, crews and like stage managers and monitors. And it was all very foreign, like to us at first, but we were lucky. Like all the Power Trip dudes are like, they've been our friends since, basically, we were coming to hardcore shows. We all come from the same hardcore scene. So, they helped us out a ton with stuff. And, everyone else on the crew was super friendly. I'm still friends with, at the time, he was High on Fire's guitar tech. His name's Greg. We still chat and message all the time. He rocks. I think he does for Deftones now. He's a solid dude. I fucking love that guy. And yeah, so it's like, just making friendships and stuff like that. Like, yeah, it was pretty crazy. Yeah, that whole time. It wasn't until I didn't really get used to it until right around like actually when the pandemic hit. I was starting to get, I'm like, all right, we're doing more interviews, doing some more like bigger tours and stuff like that. And we actually had a tour planned with Hatebreed, Havoc, and After the Burial.
Yeah.
Obviously was canceled by the pandemic.
Well, and so then you got when does the new album drops here sometime soon?
June 16th.
That's
Yeah,
what I
less than
thought.
2 weeks.
I was gonna say less than so. At the time of
quick.
recording, we should be God because you guys have a couple singles out for sure.
We have Intestinal Wrap, and then we have the Common Breed.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, Intestinal Wrap's the one I listened to a bunch of times. I thought that was really good. So, what do people? The generic question is what should people expect out of this new album, right, Trey? That's what I'm supposed to ask. Is you're going to tell me all the wonderful things that you guys are doing on the new one, which is going to be pretty sick.
Yeah, I think it's just a fun listen. It's if you're a metal fan, it's just like I feel like metal should just be fun, and it's just like a fun, fast listen. It's like not a long album. I think it's like 35 minutes. So, it's a good pace. It's a good listen. I think like our first tour we did with Carcass, like Jeff Walker said something to Reese that we all thought was like hilarious, but also like so simple but true. He was just like, death metal's supposed to be fun. And like he was just like, death metal's supposed to be fun. And we were just like, yeah, you're right, dude. Like, yeah, dude, it's supposed to be fun. And so like now we're just like, yeah, fuck it. Like, have fun. Like we're the ones playing the music. Like it should be fun for us to play and listen to over and over and over and over
Right,
again.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I remember I read that comment. I think it's on your Bandcamp I think it's you that says that you're a selfish band and you play what you enjoy, which
Yeah,
isn't, I mean, that's not wrong. I mean, I mean, it's just like work, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's in a way your job or semi job to do this. So why not like what you're doing?
Make your own life easier. It's like don't sit there and play. Which you would be surprised. It's like I know people. I mean, I'm not going to name drop anything, but like I know a ton of people in the music scene who are playing music they just don't like, but it's just for a check, and they would rather do that than work like a 9 to 5. Which I don't blame them. Like I straight up don't blame them at all. Especially like after doing this for so long. Like now I'm like, all right, like I definitely like get why somebody would do that, but I just don't have the attention span or the like it. I was always the kid in school that would like not study and then just go to the test and get A's,
Sure.
but just not do the homework. Like I would just not do any homework and stuff like that. So my grades would be like they would just average out. And so like if I don't care about something, then like I just can't put forth like more effort into it. I don't know if it's how my brain is wired or whatever, but if I'm more like enjoying it or more passionate about it, then I'm just gonna, go balls to the wall like all the time.
And again, to do this, like it is surprising to me. Like I understand maybe some of the older metal bands and stuff, but like to jump in, like you said, whatever vehicle and pull a U-Haul and do that for 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row and do it every single day. I mean, that's a tough way to go if you don't actually like what you're doing once you get to wherever you have to be. Because the one thing I always get that people when they figure out a metalhead, if they see like a tour, they can't believe how many tour dates metal bands do, like every night, and it is kind of a surprising thing. So like that's what I tell them, like they do it because they love it, or else I don't see who else is driving 4 hours every day and night to get to Madison to Iowa to Nebraska.
Yeah. It's like I always tell people, it's like this beats a 9 to 5. It's like I'd rather be doing this part time than just be doing something, else behind the desk like full time. At least at this point in my life, like I'm just kind of, I just kind of want to see as much and experience as much as possible. Like I feel like I have a pretty like once in a lifetime opportunity, and so it's like you might as well take it and run with it and, try to see and experience as much as you can while you still are able-bodied because, like, you never know, like, what might happen. So that's just kind of my, like, philosophy about it.
Well, yeah, and it helps if you have a group of people in the band, too, that's the same philosophy. And based off everything I've read and stuff about you guys, it seems like that's what's happening with you. So that's probably good for at least the near future of what you all are doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you got the album coming out as we wrap up here. What's next? What's next for Creeping Death coming forward over the next like year to couple years? What do you think?
Probably like just lots of touring on this album, and then just trying to play as many places and to as many people as possible.
Sure.
Pretty much it.
Hey, that's not bad. So when's the hardcore band gonna just spawn off of this?
Oh, we already have like bands like Lincoln plays drums in a band called Fugitive with Blake from Power Trip, and Seth from Scourge, and some other homies that are in some other Texas bands like Impalers, Vasca, and some punk bands like that. And then I'm in a hardcore. I play drums in a hardcore band called Deep Cover with some homies who are also in like bands like Ozone, which is another Texas hardcore band, and my other homie, he plays in the band Judiciary actually, and he plays guitar in Deep Cover as well. So we're still doing the hardcore thing, and then also speaking of side projects, Reese and AJ have a side project called Sacred Attention, and it's actually not heavy music. It's like sort of soft emo music, in the vein of that band like Sebadoh, or sort of like kind of like Dinosaur Jr.
Okay.
Kind of like that. But it's very cool. It's very sick. Like they like singing it. I actually saw their first show a couple days ago on May 30th, and it rocked. So yeah, we all just kind of like have our little side projects and different things. Just so it's not just always fucking death metal like 24/7.
Yeah.
Spread the love to other. Eventually, I'm gonna do what Reese and AJ do, try to start a band that's like maybe not aggressive, something a little more like groovy, funky. Like I can play bass for, something like that. So
sure.
Yeah, we all have different diverse tastes, and we try to spread them out, a little bit, so we don't just get like burnt out on listening and doing the same kind of shit over and over.
Yeah, and again, based off your philosophy with you guys with this band, it sounds like that's exactly what you don't want to have happen.
Yeah,
so other than metal, what are you doing in Texas for fun? What's the fun Trey stuff?
I personally fun Trey stuff. I love sports. So like, anything involving sports, I love doing. I love playing basketball, just playing pickup hoops at the gym, stuff like that. I used to do kickboxing, Muay Thai kickboxing, but I moved to where I live now, and the nearest gym is like it's like too far to like commute regularly. So I haven't found a new gym, but I would like to start doing kickboxing and probably jiu-jitsu too, and then. So into that, then video games, like me and my roommate game all the time. He's in there playing Diablo 4 right now.
I was just going to say Diablo 4 and up probably. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, literally like, so, we got that and, playing League sometimes, but I also love sports games like Madden, 2K. And even though they're, shitty, like FIFA, like they're shitty games, I'm not going to lie, but I just like competition, and, sometimes just mindless, like, franchise or dynasty tinkering is fun sometimes. And, obviously games, I haven't played Call of Duty in a while because the newest one fucking sucked. But, I used to be into big, first person shooters. Like me and my friends, that was like all we played. And then now they kind of suck. And now we just kind of like branch out and playing stuff like Diablo and League and, just whatever is just kind of like somebody like I've been personally trying to play more indie games because I was always like the big only buying the AAA like titles and stuff like that, but they all fucking suck now. Like
they do. I know something about the modern. Like I know I've been playing the remaster of GoldenEye for the past like month, and I'm just if that's proof that there's no modern game that I want to play, instead I'll play 007 from 1996.
Yeah, I've been replaying Ghost of Tsushima for like fucking 3 or 4 years at this point. Like, it's like, and I've beaten GTA 19 trillion times, so I'm kind of like over that. Like, I don't really play the online on GTA because it's toxic as fuck. But it is. But so yeah, there hasn't been a good like I play Ace Combat 2 a lot. Like I used to, but there hasn't been one of those in a few years either. So yeah, it's just kind of bleak. I've just kind of like trying to expand my horizons and be a little bit open-minded as I get older in my gaming taste.
Sure.
The stuff I usually like is just like not it right now.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I get that. I wait for like a Resident Evil every 2 years just to get me through because that's what gets me excited. Is a Resident Evil game, and the Resident Evil 4 remaster comes out sometime. I think, in the next couple months. And if there's a game I played way too many times, 10 years, 15 years ago, it was that game. So I am thrilled. And again, just shows that I'm more excited for the old games, which, gosh, I think that means we're aging out. We're aging out.
Yeah, it's a shame.
They're not made for us anymore.
I guess. I mean, shit, it seems like they're not made for anyone. It's like even the young kids are complaining about them, too. It's not Fortnite, you know?
True. All right. Well, as we wind down, where can everybody find Creeping Death? Where's the best places to find, follow, and pay attention?
At Creeping Death TX on all socials. You can search Creeping Death on Facebook, and we actually pop up first now, which is pretty sick. And then if you don't have social media, you can go to creepingdeath.net and find all the same information, links to tickets for our upcoming tour, pre-order information, things like that.
Perfect. And again, I know you said it, June 16th, I believe, is the new album drop?
Yeah. Friday, June 16th.
Perfect. Well, hey, Trey, thanks for being here. That was a great conversation. We appreciate it very much, and good luck with everything. And hopefully we'll see you on a tour sometime.
Hell yeah. Appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of Vulgar Display of Podcast. We will talk to you later.